Our Jack Helsel at Large today visited his private studio and museum.
Many of B.W. Crawford's creations are readily recognizable as cartoon characters or celebrities. But what they're made of may remain a mystery unless you look very close. Here's a clue. Crawford's been cracking pecans as a part-time retirement job for 7 years. Last year, he shelled more than 15 tons, and his nutty hobby grew out of that. After selecting the most unusual shapes and sizes, Crawford glues them together. Full-figured females are his favorites, though B.W. says it's not some sexist thing.
Their faces are so much easier to do than some of the men that I do.
Men like President George Bush, or a self-portrait that Crawford admits is wishful thinking. But amazingly,
before this all started, I never picked up a paintbrush in my life except to paint a house.
Crawford's Nutcracker Suite soon will be home to the world's only pecan museum. He figures he'll open it to the public when he's got about 300 figures, maybe in another year or so.
I'm billing it as the world's only pecan museum because I haven't seen it before, and everybody that I've talked to, any of them haven't seen this type of thing before, so until I'm challenged on it, I'll continue to operate that way.
Somehow, we figure his title's safe. Jack Helsel, Channel 5 News, Shady Shores.
I think he's got the market cornered on this type of art.
I think you're right.
That's it for us for now. Thanks for being with us.
We'll see you tonight at 10 o'clock. Until then, for Harold, Scott, and the entire Channel 5 News team, have a nice evening.
Good night.
You've been watching Channel 5. Crawford is a retired General Motors worker who cracks pecans to supplement his income. Pecan cracking is not an especially challenging job, and maybe that's why Crawford got the idea of doing something else with the nut. These may look like small pecans to you, but to Crawford, they are arms and legs. Crawford started out by making a dog, which really didn't look like one. It looked more like some pecans glued together. But the more he sawed and ground and whittled and glued, the better he got. And during the past year, he has made 150 figures, some of them generic, most of them celebrities of one type or another. There's Cher and Dolly and Elvis, all made of pecans. Each piece is different, but all his women have one thing in common, an impressive bust. Pecans come in all shapes and sizes, but none is flat. And in the wonderful world of pecan sculpture, each woman has ample cleavage. On the downside, they also have linebacker-type arms and legs. Crawford believes his creations should be seen by the public, and he plans to open the world's only pecan museum right next door to his cracking shed.
Even if I didn't make a nickel out of it, it wouldn't cost me nothing.
Crawford plans to make another 150 figures during the next year, and when he finishes, the Pecan Museum will be ready to go. Whether the public is ready remains to be seen. Jack Brown, Channel 4 News, and Denton.
Join us at 6.
Yes.
Nutshell. Stay with us. Action. But a North Texas man now plans to turn his garage into a gallery of artwork using the native nut. Jack Helsel has a progress report on the Pecan Picasso.
Though Texas pecans were no bumper crop last fall, B.W. Crawford's personalized pecan production peaked.
I had more time to work on these figures.
Crawford's new cap now heralds his old hobby. The Pecan Picasso takes plain old nuts and turns them into likenesses of the famous and infamous.
Picasso is a great artist.
Even though his medium was not pecans. But Picasso didn't live in Texas either.
You've got to have access to the pecans for sure, and then you've got to have an imagination to go with it.
To create Crawford's latest crop of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or E.T., or Dick Tracy. Even Mr. Peanut is really Mr. Pecan.
Simpsons seems to be the latest craze on television, so I figured, I might as well do the whole family of those.
Lest Bart have a cow, man. Crawford now has more than 300 of these.
I was shooting for 300 before I opened my museum up, and it looks like I'm fixing to open it just any time now.
Right now, this is just a big double garage in the backyard. But every day it gets closer to becoming the Pecan Picasso's museum. His wife is working out the details.
And then have all your publicity over there for them to look at.
After they examine all his artwork, of course. Jack Helsel, Texas News 5.
A museum where everybody's nuts.
Why not?
That's it for us for now.
Depending on what your grandma said.
Well, you're not going to say that around here.
That's because he's turning the little nuts into works of art. Find out how in a Texas Tale. That's tonight at 5. Have to see this one only on News 8.
Get a kick out of it. It encourages me to keep on with it.
Some nutty artwork in Texas Tales. Then at 6, a civil medium is a little out of the ordinary.
As long as people get a kick out of it, it encourages me to keep on with it.
Some nutty artwork in Texas Tales. Then at
This is a slow time of year for Buell Crawford's pecan shelling business. But until work picks up around Thanksgiving, he does have something else to keep him busy.
It's going to be a bikini lady. She's going to have a bikini on.
For years, Buell just shelled pecans. Then one day he saw them in a new light.
Over the years, I've been watching these things go through my machine, and some of the pecans' heads are shaped like certain people's heads, and I got to noticing that. And so I decided I'd just start putting them together and just paint them, paint their faces on them. And so I went on from there.
After he glues the pecans together, he can start painting.
I had never done any artwork until I started doing this. It kind of runs in my family, but I never did try it until I got started on this stuff.
His hobby has taken much of his time and most of his living room.
Well, I've done a prospector, pulling a mule, and the old mule's balking. And I've got the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and many comic characters, Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, and Snoopy and all those comic characters. And then I've got several different kind of animals. I try to put as much humor into it as I can. As long as people get a kick out of it, it encourages me to keep on with it.
This week, Buell officially opens his free pecan art museum. He figures the artistically minded traveler may find something of interest here. So that means Buell Crawford is getting cracking on even more art. John Pronk, Channel 8 News, Denton County.
And that's it for us at 5. But first...
Okay, so we're going to get the answer to the drain question. He's been nicknamed the Pecan Picasso.
Buell Crawford has a very unusual talent. He turns pecan shells into works of art that make people smile. We think he's positively Texas.
I think quarter.
You have to have a lot of imagination to do what Buell Crawford does. He's able to take an ordinary pecan shell and see something in it the rest of us don't.
This one here is Christ. He's, as you always see him blessing the people. And so that's what he's doing there. He's heavy on the bottom side, so I had to use a lot of pecans and just work them up.
Since Buell crafted this little dog 2 years ago, he's made more than 300 tiny statues. Buell says this whole thing started out as a sales gimmick. He thought if he could get people to come out to his house and take a look at his little figurines, then they would pay to have their pecans cracked. Buell says, just like people, each shell has its own individuality, like Dolly Parton.
Now, I had to use a little bigger pecans on Dolly because she's known for the top, you know, her top heavy.
And David Letterman.
I've got a picture of Cher in his hand because they have a kind of a conflict of personality.
There are two-headed ladies, men on a snowmobile, the Simpsons, and the Statue of Liberty, carrying a Japanese flag.
The reason I've got her with a Japanese flag in her hand is because of the trade deficit and the way the Japanese are buying out the country.
Buell says he spends anywhere from 2 hours to 2 days on each figure. He says if he were to sell one, it would cost $50 to $300, depending on the amount of work done. But making money isn't the incentive.
You got to be a little nutty to do this, you know. So, but as long as people enjoy it, I enjoy doing it.
Buell and his little statues are something we consider positively Texas. In Shady Shores, Jerry Jenkins, News Watch 11.
Now, fella drove down 6
hours from Denton, Texas, to bring some pecan dolls. Now, the state tree of Texas is the pecan tree.
Is it? It's pecan.
Pecan. Boy, did they turn on you in a hurry here. Pecan, of course, that's what I'm saying. And he has the world's only pecan art museum in Shady Shores, Texas. His name is B.W. Crawford. He's called the Pecan Picasso.
Excuse me.
And his wife, Mary, they opened the museum recently. When they heard we were coming, they got in touch with us. And let me just show you what they...
They're very intricate, aren't they?
Really intricate. Now, here's the typical cowboy. All of these things made out of pecans. You see, that's why they call them a pecan doll.
Oh, really?
Okay. Now, here is Cher as a pecan doll. And here's Dolly Parton as a pecan doll.
That took a couple of really big pecans.
And here are the biggest pecans of them all, Kathy Lee.
Oh, rough.
You love it, you know you do.
I wish.
Yeah. And here's Regis, no pecans at all.
You got my thighs right
Yeah. But anyway, 6 hours, and we sure do appreciate it. And they're up there in the Shady Shores, Texas, outside of Denton. And we thank you very much. And these cost $300, so, and there's a lot of work that gets involved in it. We thank B.W. and Mary Crawford very, very much. Now, we have also...
The Eyes of Texas.
Hello, buddy. I'm Ron Stone. Welcome to this week's edition of The Eyes of Texas. We're glad to have you with us as we take a trip around the state. Gary James and Bill Springer have been out this week with their cameras to look at some interesting sights. They've been to the Windisch Museum that celebrates the history of those folks from Germany who came walking into early Texas. We've been down to Richmond to check on the barber shop there, and we've been up to Austin to meet a man who does an awful lot with horseshoes and nails. We've also been to Shady Shores. Now, you probably don't know where Shady Shores is, but it's the place B.W. Crawford decided to settle down and retire. Crawford, you see, spent his whole life, he said, working for peanuts. And now he's going to spend the rest of his life working with pecans.
Cracking pecans was a natural hobby for Buell Crawford after he retired. This is pecan country, so Buell bought his own cracking machine and went into business. But business, that is cracking pecans, was boring. Just standing around all day feeding pecans into that machine. It gave Buell a lot of time to think.
Over the years, I've been seeing these different shapes and sizes go through my machine, and some of them got to looking like certain people's heads, shaped like certain people's heads, movie stars and well-known people, you know. And so I noticed that, and I looked at it for 2 or 3 years, and I said, well, I believe I'll start painting their faces. And so I started painting their faces and then putting their bodies together, and so this is what I'm coming up with.
His first creation was a crude Dalmatian puppy.
Yeah, I was going to quit at this point when I made that little dog. And a lady came in, and that's where I even put any paint on it, and had it over here drying. And she came in and put it in her pocket. She brought some pecans out to be cracked, and she put it in her pocket. I guess she thought it was cute. And I told my wife, I said, well, you know, somebody thinks that good. I believe I can do better than that.
He did. And the second dog he made started looking like the real thing. His ideas mostly come from pictures.
The main thing is to get the shape first, and then I can work it from there. But you got to be pretty good at shapes to be able to see something in them.
Armed with a hot glue gun, some thin wire, acrylic paint, and of course, pecans, Buell Crawford has created literally hundreds of characters since he started in 1988. Even the tiniest details can be found on his creations, like a mole on Marilyn Monroe's cheek, and the gap between David Letterman's front teeth. The hot glue gun has become his favorite tool.
See, on some of these like this, that I just glue the 2 pecans together and then fill them in with the hot glue to make the body a little bigger. I didn't start out using hot glue. I started out using this Elmer's glue, as you see up here. I had a whole gallon of it up here. And, yeah, it's still there. And so I put the first few together with that Elmer's glue, but it takes it 3 or 4 hours to dry. And this hot glue will dry in just about a half a minute.
So the Crawford's main business, cracking pecans, eventually gave way to the hobby. His artwork is copyrighted. He says he's the only person in the country to experiment with pecan art. He makes the likenesses, his wife makes the clothes, and the Crawfords today are in the museum business. Buell calls himself a Pecan Picasso, a man of art. And his museum, the Nutcracker Suite, is open nearly all the time, except when the Crawfords are traveling.
Now here's one of my favorites right here. He's a prospector. And these are all, these are pecan, these tools here. And of course the rest of it's all pecans. And then I make I make the hair and the beard out of the hot glue. This lady here, I go up and drink coffee at Briar Inn up here in Denton, and I see her flipping eggs every morning, fixing people's breakfast and such, and so that's where I got that idea to put her together. Now this is Little Red Riding Hood, but I had forgotten the story on her, see, and I forgot she was a little girl, and so I made her a full-grown woman. You can get my Dallas Cowgirl. Now they brought this back to me from one of the libraries. Bat and Dolly and Sharon told me it's too much cleavage.
Buell can turn out one character a day when he sets his mind to it, and when nobody comes around looking to get some pecans cracked. He sells a few of his figures, but not many at his prices. But then he's not anxious to sell any of his art. He's building a museum from the ground up and hopes someday to have a larger display in nearby Denton. Meantime, the former parts man for General Motors Auto Division in Dallas remains enthusiastic about his newfound talent. He's just waiting for the rest of the world to discover it.
It still amazes me, even though I've done about 350 figures, every time I come up with something, and finish it, I'm still amazed about it myself. So if I can amaze myself, then it's almost got to amaze others, I would think.
Like I used to like the Saturday morning cowboy serials at the movies when I was a kid. I liked a good shoot-'em-up as much as the next guy, but fact is, we know that's not the way it really was. Well, there's a place in my head that tries to show us the Old West the way it really was. We'll stop by the Wild West Museum this week. In Denton, there's an artist who's a little bit nutty. In fact, he's a self-proclaimed nut. B.W. Crawford is a pecan artist. You'll meet him in just a few minutes. And in Lubbock, Texas, they have a whole different breed of winter Texan. They come all the way from Canada every year to spend the cold weather season on the high plains of Texas. And folks there love the Canada geese that has adopted Lubbock as their winter home. We'll take a look. Why don't you hop in and travel with me? I'm Bob Phillips. This is A Country. B.W. Crawford is a man who knows his pecans, and well he should, seeing as he's cracked thousands of pounds of them in the last 10 years or so. From tiny natives to softball-sized paper shells, B.W. has seen every shape and size of pecan.
Well, I buy and sell and I crack other people's pecans, and so I have access to quite a few pecans.
Bushels of pecans had passed unnoticed through B.W.'s clanky old cracker until one day, B.W. started seeing things no one had ever seen before.
Through the years, I've been watching these different sizes and shapes of pecans go through my machine. And I got to recognize some of them as certain people. The shapes and all look like certain people's heads. And I got to look at them 2 or 3 years, and so I decided to just start painting their faces on them. And then I started making the bodies and the whole bit out of pecans.
What BW saw was a nutty way to take a crack at something he calls pecan art.
No, I never did do any artwork. Only time I ever picked up a paintbrush in my life was to paint a house, but art kind of runs in my family, and so I thought I'd give it a try after I got this idea.
Today, BW has broken out of his shell in a big way. In fact, this Pecan Picasso has created so many pecan art figures, he's now created what he says is the world's only pecan art museum.
Yeah, I call it the world's only pecan art museum because I haven't seen anything like it. I've got just about everything you can think of. In my celebrity case over here, I've got Dan Quayle, Marilyn Monroe, David Letterman, George Bush, Regis and Kathy Lee, John Wayne, Cher, and Elvis and Christ and Ronald Reagan, Johnny Carson, and even got my wife and myself over there.
What do people say when they see this stuff?
Most of them don't think it's actually made out of pecans, because the time you get the paint on it and all, but when I show them some of the ones I'm working on, then they can believe it then. Most people can't see in them what I can see in them. See, I can see the finished product in them when I start. It's coming a little bit slower now than what it did when I started. It used to I'd make a long list of things. Every time I'd get an idea, I'd write it down so I wouldn't forget it. But now it comes a little slower. That I've got about probably better than 400 I've made up.
BW's latest work is a recreation of The Last Supper, captured forever in pecans. There's really no limit to what BW can do. The trick is just finding the right nut.
You know, like this pecan here. I can cut that off, and I can make a Santa Claus hat out of it by putting a little pecan on the end of it, you see. Or I can make a Mickey Mouse nose like this by cutting it off the same way. Just chopping it off about along in there. And then I could use it for a cowboy, a bow-legged cowboy, legs. And I can also use it for an old man's back. And so I can do quite a few things with these curved ones.
You have to wonder about a man who goes out and looks for faces on pecans, but you can call B.W. Crawford a little nutty, and he won't mind at all. It's only natural for a man who calls himself the Pecan Picasso.
You got to be a little nutty to do this. You know, you got to think like a nut.
Well, of course, everyone will want to visit the Pecan Art Museum or some of the other places we tell you about every week on our weekly events calendar, brought to you by the fine folks at Dairy Queen and Southwest Airlines.
Welcome to this edition of NTC, and I'm Carolyn Ryan.
I'm Saul Garza. Thank you for joining us. Well, Carolyn, on today's show, we have an interesting variety of stories, including an interview with Grammy nominee Mike Bogle.
Our first story is very interesting. You may wonder why we're standing out here in the middle of nowhere.
It is, and why don't we go and take a look, and we'll show you why we're out here. Well, we're at B.W. Crawford's Pecan Creations, and as you can tell by the name, things here are made out of pecans.
That's right, entirely made out of pecans. There's over 400 figurines here, completely made out of pecans, such as this California raisin.
That's right, and this one is on its beginning stages, but why don't we let Melissa Blackman tell us how B.W. Crawford turns pecans into almost anything.
When people think of pecans, they might think of a snack. But when B.W. Crawford sees a pecan, he thinks of something completely different. Right outside of Denton, Crawford has created what is known to be the only pecan museum in the world. The museum is made up of characters constructed entirely of pecans. Since beginning almost 4 years ago, he's been able to make about 400 characters.
Old comic characters, Betty Boot. Well, I first started cracking pecans for people, and I have 3 cracking machines, and over the years I've seen these different sizes and shapes go through my machines, and some of them are shaped like certain people's heads, and I got to noticing that, and so I started painting the faces and then putting the bodies and all on them, and that's where I got started.
Some figures are political, and some are humorous, and some are just, well, controversial. Creating the characters takes anywhere from 1 to 3 days.
Here is the Spider-Man. That's one of the...
All of the characters start out as pecans, then with a little wood glue, paint, and a lot of imagination, characters like Spock,
Sherlock,
Cher, or even David Letterman come to life.
The reason he's got Cher in his hand, if you'll notice on his show, he's always throwing cardboard through the window, breaking the windows. You know, that's his trademark. So I figured you'd want to throw Cher's picture through the window because one night on the show, Cher and David Letterman have a difference of a personality, and she called him on the show one night. And it got away with him. And nothing ever gets away with Letterman, but that did.
The Pecan Picasso has never had any art training, but that doesn't stop him from coming up with new figures.
Sometimes I'll see something just in everyday life out there, and it'll catch my eye, and I'll come on remember what I saw, and just kind of photograph it in my mind, and then come back and do it on pecans. And here's
Crawford displays his work in libraries throughout North Texas. What he considers his masterpiece is currently being shown in the Denton Public Library.
It has 13 people in it. It's the Last Supper, and I have a lot of things on it, well, I have all the food laid out, and then a couple, about 4 or 5 wine bottles, and I have a roast chicken. And somebody asked me the other day about said they didn't have chicken at the Last Supper, and I said, well, if you remember, these are all Baptist preachers, and I haven't seen one yet that didn't like chicken.
Crawford doesn't usually sell his works, although he might sell to a collector. But remember, this is an art museum, so the figures aren't cheap.
Anywhere from $50 right on up to better than $3,000. Just depending on how much work goes in them.
The Devil's Trophies is an example of a $3,000 work and one of Crawford's favorite creations.
Jim and Tammy Baker, Jimmy Swaggart. See, that's where Swaggart looked when he got caught. In Noriega, which he's on trial right now, and Ayatollah, and this is Robert Schuller, another evangelist out of California. And this is the latest one, Saddam Hussein. But Tilton's got to go in there. There's no way he's going to stay out of that one.
Some of Crawford's more controversial pieces are political figures. Both George Bush and Ronald Reagan are among those selected to be represented. And there are also representations of both the Democratic and the Republican Party mascots. Crawford explained one of the pieces.
The Republican chairman came to me one day and told me that the elephant didn't fit the Republican image anymore. He said that the elephant is an animal that remembers everything, and Ronald Reagan couldn't remember anything, and so he wanted me to make him a mascot that would fit their image. So I came up with this alley cat. As you can see, an alley cat, nobody can cover up their crap any better than the alley cat can.
People come from everywhere to visit the museum, and it's well worth the time and effort to see all the figures. But be warned, after a day in the museum, you'll never look at a pecan the same way again.
Well, I found 2 of my favorite groups here. Bart Simpson and the whole gang with Marge and her big blue hair, and Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. This one's really cute. It has Sleepy, Sneezy, Doc, Happy, the whole gang. We'll show you some more figurines, but let's first take a look at Sherry Turner's segment on Aikido.
Our next story is on a group of guys that get together and fly airplanes, but these aren't just regular airplanes, they're radio-controlled airplanes. But why don't we let Kendall Elliott tell us a little bit more about it.
He is in the eye of the beholder. Once that image is tarnished,
I want you to be watching Channel 20.
Hi, I'm Kathy Ireland, and you're watching MTTV Channel 20.
Hello, I'm Randy White, and you're watching MTTV.
Hey, listen, after you go out and vote, and of course that's real important, turn on Channel 20. That's where it's happening.
20, I'm Saul Garza.
And I'm Carolyn Ryan. If you just joined us, we've been taking a look at Pecan Creations, where all the figurines here are made out of pecans.
That's right, we've shown you some celebrity figures, but now we're going to show you some cartoon figures, and here's my favorite. Speedy Gonzalez, which was your favorite, Carolyn?
It has to be either E.T. or the Pink Panther.
It's pretty interesting how everything is made out of pecans.
Even the eyes, very unique, how they...
That's right. You can also find some unique items at the Denton Mini Mall. You know, a lot of you probably passed by there, but have never really gone inside.
Well, our Dave McGrebsall went inside, and he found some unique things. Grammy in the jazz instrumental category.
And Richard Fetters had an opportunity to speak with them.
So, taking a look at the Pecan Creations and all the figurines.
That's right, we've had a lot of fun here, and since we've been here, Mr. Crawford has already started on us.
Right, pretty soon we're going to be in the Celebrity Showcase.
That's right, but in the meantime, thank you so much for joining us, and be sure to catch us here next time as we show you what's going on in and around
the University of North Texas.
Bye.
And of course, the Black Goose has the secret word. I don't know the secret word, but if any of the contestants say it, he will come down and I have to give him $500, which they will split. Now, let's get on with this fine show.
Carol Bowles and Buell Crawford.
How you doing? How are you? Carol Bowles, Denver, Colorado. Former Miss Black Colorado, 90 and 91.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. Now, how did you win by default?
Well, I was one of those classic, well, if your first runner-up is very important to this pageant, and if, the winner can't fulfill her duties, then you will step up and take her title, and that's basically how I got it. The young lady got a scholarship to the Air Force Academy, and I went ahead and took over her title for her.
Now, where did you keep your paraphernalia?
Well, I kept it in the back seat of my car, and Mom she was kind of sick of, me running back and forth, so she would always tell me, well, look, the backseat queen is on her way, so just hold off, and she'd throw my shoes back there, my sash, my crown, and that's basically where I dressed, in the backseat of my car. So I kind of got the name the backseat queen. It gave people, the wrong impression, but until I explained it, I'm really not that way.
So you're really not that way?
No. Do I look that way?
No, looks have nothing to do with it.
They can be deceiving.
Yeah. Buell Crawford.
Yes, sir.
Shady Shores, Texas.
Right.
What are you doing there?
Well, after I retired, I had to have someplace to go, so I moved from another little small town on to Shady Shores and set up a pecan cracking business. I was getting ready to retire, and so I cracked nuts.
No. Who wants their nuts cracked?
People that pick the nuts up.
So they pick up the nuts from off the ground,
Yep.
and they come to you?
Yes.
And you got a sign on your place that says what?
Nutcracker Sweet.
You love nuts.
Love nuts.
You appreciate nuts.
You bet.
You know where they come from.
Yep.
And you want to crack them.
You got as little as a pound, I'll crack them.
You're not going to squash my nuts.
No. No. You set the machine for the size of nuts you're running through.
How much you charge to crack this audience of nuts?
Well, I'll do that for nothing.
Oh, boy. Okay, what are you carrying in the hand?
Well, over the years, as I crack these nuts, I see them go through this machine. And some of them look like certain people's heads.
Do you drink?
No. I'm going to take one night, though.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So over the last 4 years, I've made over 400 figures. And so I brought a couple of them with me tonight. And because it's kind of hard to tell people what I do and make them understand.
You're kidding. Now, where's the nut?
Well, the whole thing is nut, except that you can't make a cigar out of a nut.
Well, you haven't been in the business that long yet.
Yeah, well, yeah.
2 more years of watching that machine and you'll be able to make a cigar.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to give you guys some money. Your category is TV soaps. Thank you for coming. Thank you. TV soaps is your category. Start you with $750. How much?
$295.
$295. In 1992, her Emmy scoreboard read 13 nominations, no awards. Name the All My Children actress who plays Erica.
Joan Collins?
Who is it, audience? Susan Lucci. Huh?
She looks like Joan Crawford.
Yeah, if he makes it out of a nut.
Well, you have $455.
Okay, 100.
Since 1965, one soap opera has opened with the following words. Like sands through the hourglass, so are the what?
Days of Our Lives.
Correct.
You're at $555.
She's pushing.
3.
3? All right. Because
305.
305. Yes, indeed. Round it out. He moved down the California coast when he switched from a daytime to a primetime soap. Name the actor who left Santa Barbara to join L.A. Law.
Oh, Blair Underwood.
No. Martinez.
Well, you wind up with $250.
All right. That's not bad. That's not bad. Thank you. Take care. You're going to take care of it. All right. Congratulations. And thank you, Mr. Crawford. Take care.
These things most people don't, like the faces of famous people in a bag of nuts. The Denton, Texas man hasn't kept this knowledge to himself. Lucky us. As CNN's Tony Clark reports, the self-made artist is sharing his creations with the world.
65-year-old B.W. Crawford is admittedly a little nutty about pecans. The retired auto worker buys, sells, and cracks nuts, and that's led to some unusual observations.
Over the years, seeing the different sizes and shapes go through my machines, some of them got to looking like certain people's heads, famous people.
People like Johnny Carson and David Letterman, Miss Piggy and Marilyn Monroe.
Famous people, you see them on the news quite a bit, and so you recognize the shape of their head. But a lot of these pecans are shaped like certain people's heads.
So a few years ago, Crawford started creating pecan people, complete with pecan arms and legs. Hulk Hogan has pecan muscles, and singer Dolly Parton has, well...
Dolly is known to be top-heavy, so I had to find a little bigger pecans for her.
With a gallery of more than 400 figures, Crawford has been dubbed the Pecan Picasso. Not bad for someone who never studied art.
The only artwork I did before painting is painting a house. I never was interested in art until I got to doing this.
Now it's almost an obsession. It takes Crawford about 3 days to create one of his pecan characters. He glues the pecans together to form a body, then paints on a celebrity face.
See, I try to put as much humor into them as I can.
Like dogs playing poker or the elaborate courtroom scene where the jury is asleep. There's also political pecan humor, former President Reagan gazing into a crystal ball. And then there's Dan Quayle.
When Dan Quayle came out that he couldn't spell potato, I figured that I might ought to put him on a dance stool.
Characters in Crawford's Pecan Museum range from a lovable alien to a goose-stepping Hitler. They're cartoon characters and the king of rock and roll. Crawford has depicted himself as Mr. America.
Yeah, that's what he used to look like.
Now that's shell-shocking. Tony Clark, CNN, Denton, Texas.
There's an obvious line here, but I think we'll take a pass on it. That's our report for this evening.
Paul once said that one day everybody will be famous for 15 minutes. One Denton man is proving he can do more than that, and he's on his way to some big-time TV time.
This small building on Chaparral, just off Shady Shores Road, is the only pecan art museum in the world. It's the creation of B.W. Crawford, with plenty of assistance from Mary, his wife of 32 years. It may sound a little nutty, but it's been enough to attract a lot of attention since it started in 1988. The 400 figures are created totally from pecans, glue, and paint. Figures such as Cher, Batman, and Snow White and her little friends have now caught the eye of the host of the CBS Late Show, Dave Letterman.
They wanted him to interview me first, so they put me eating dinner right beside him so he could interview me first. And the interview went real well. I was expecting a few cracks from David, because he's known for coming out with his cracks. But he's a pretty nice guy. So, but in case he wasn't a nice guy, I wasn't going to be a nice guy either.
The Pecan Picasso says the Letterman show tells him he'll be on the program in the very near future. He's been scheduled before, but this is supposed to be the real thing. In the meantime, if you'd like to meet some of BW's creations face-to-face, give him a call at the Pecan Art Museum at 321-3461.
BW and Mary have already been on television in places like Zimbabwe on CNN. They say they've actually had more media there at the little museum than they've had people.
Where in the world, where in the universe do TV talk shows find guests who share their deepest secrets in front of millions of viewers?
The answer? Well, some of them hail right from the heart of Texas. Get in line for your 15 minutes of fame. Tonight, 11 News reporter Gerard Romalo shows us how.
Welcome Mary and Vernon to the show. Welcome them to the show.
If I called you an oogalog eggalog, would you be hurt? She said you didn't come home after stripping.
When people talk, America tunes in. And so do the folks at NATFEB, the National Association of Television Program Executives. Each year, these TV top bananas get together at a convention. It's here they decide which shows they'll buy to air on their station. Yes, the more popular hosts usually command a good price, but these execs say the real success of a show is often determined by its guests.
So where do these guests come from? Who are they? And why are they willing to go in front of a camera and expose their personal lives on national TV?
Hi, this is Chris. Can I help you?
Actually, guest getting is serious business. Serious enough for a guy in L.A. to make a living at it.
Talk show television is entertainment. It's ratings, it's money, it's a business, okay?
Chris Darren founded the National Talk Show Registry. His clients pay $3 a month to get on his list. Then he mails a weekly newsletter with their name on it to dozens of shows.
Well, I make everything out of pecans.
Pecans. Yeah.
This one right here is a Cher, of course.
Oh, geez, look at the nuts on Cher.
Do you remember seeing this man on David Letterman? He's a talk show registry client who lives right here in Denton.
Usually when I get on a national show, I get calls from all over the country, you know.
That's right, people wanting to buy his unusual pecan artwork. This is why a lot of people want to get themselves or their product on TV. Harriet Hartley, also a registry client, lives here in Arlington. She's been booked on shows like Donahue for her self-help and motivational expertise.
I think it's a mutually beneficial thing. It provides news and entertainment, as well as it's the way that sells your book.
And Harriet rarely makes an appearance without her latest selection. But these two aren't the only people searching for their 15 minutes of fame. In fact, your life story is probably right for some show, somewhere. Gerard Romalo, 11 News.
No, I'm not sure it is. Still to...
Really? it's interesting to me when you start talking to people, most everybody has a collection of one kind or another, and so what we did a couple of nights ago, we went out and had dinner with a lovely group of very interesting people who have interesting, unusual collections, and we videotaped it. We're going to show it to you right now. Roll the collector's videotape. So you collect swizzle sticks. How many do you have?
I have over 50,000.
Are you the only one in the country who collects swizzle sticks?
Oh, no, I belong to a club.
There's a club, a swizzle stick club.
Yeah. You want to see the newsletter?
Well, maybe later I'll take it up to the room with me. I'm just guessing here, you're probably a woman who enjoys her cocktails. What is it that you collect?
Twigs and branches.
You collect twigs and branches? Let's just pause here for a second to allow our studio audience to give a very lonely man a nice round of applause, all right? And you're here tonight with your collection, which is what, sir?
The Liberace collection.
Liberace, actual clothing and artifacts owned and touched and used by Liberace.
Well, it really started when I was his bodyguard.
You were Liberace's bodyguard?
And the president's.
How many fights have you been in? Are you pretty good with your fists?
I do what most men can't do.
What is that?
Put another man's flesh in a fight in his mouth.
Tell us about your collection.
Well, I make everything out of pecans.
Pecans? Yeah.
This one right here is a Cher, of course.
Oh, geez, look at the nuts on Cher. Fred, where are you from?
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin. What do you do there?
I collect vacuum cleaners.
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to work for a vacuum company or my own vacuum store, something like that.
Let's see your collection. How many do you have at home?
I have 43 at home.
Oh, this one is the coat that was used in the Batman series for television and movies.
Heavenly days, am I dreaming? No, it's us in the flesh.
You have some stuff we can try on? I don't know if you know this now, but maybe there will be a point in your life when you'll realize it, but I happen to know this from experience. Chicks dig guys who are into vacuum cleaners. Have you run across that? And there he is. He's just arrived from Neptune.
Heavenly days.
Wow. That's a swizzle stick?
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what, I'll give you $100 if you put this up your nose and open it up. Come on, give it a try. There you go. To Liberace. There. Thank you very much.
Me and my shadow. Strolling down the avenue.
Not a bad look. We'll be right back with Wayne Cotter.
You'll meet a Denton man who went completely nuts a few years ago.
In this art world, you have to have talent, creativity, and you have to be just a little crazy. Well, a Denton man might agree. In tonight's Really Crilly report, Jeff introduces us to an artist whose career didn't take off until he went completely nuts.
You don't want to press too hard because if you do, you'll smash them.
B.W. Crawford has been a nut ever since he can remember. Then one day he noticed that each pecan has its own personality.
Because a lot of pecans are shaped like certain people's heads.
When he cracks open his garage, you understand what he's talking about. He calls this place his Nutcracker Suite. B.W. is the curator of the world's only pecan art museum.
This little dude here I made, and the lady come in and picked it up.
It started with this pecan puppy. It was a little crude, but with practice, his pecan portraits became better.
Spock, of course, he got those funny shaped ears, and
now his collection of pecan people is past 400, and the population is still growing. From cartoon characters like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, to Batman, to Popeye, Dick Tracy, and E.T., to world leaders like Reagan, Bush, and Quayle. He even has a Pope pecan. And as far as nutty celebrities go, there's Letterman, Leno, Carson, Cher, Roseanne, Elvis, Regis and Kathy Lee, and of course Dolly.
You got to use bigger pecans on Dolly because she's known for being top heavy.
Oh yeah, he made a self-portrait pecan, but he took a few liberties.
Of course, I have to put a good light on myself, you know.
Currently, the self-proclaimed Pecan Picasso is working on Vanna White.
It takes about 3 days to do a face. It takes me about 3 days because, see, I never did any artwork until I started doing this.
BW has a simple philosophy, really. He says everyone is a nut. And in his garage gallery, it's true. Everyone who's anyone is a nut. BW has just found a remarkable way of bringing them out of their shell. Jeff Crilly, News 4 Texas.
And that's the first time he's done any artwork?
That's amazing.
Wow.
I want to know how he gets all those pecan shells cracked without shattering them. I don't have that kind of luck.
And what does he do with the nuts, right?
Yeah, right. If things don't go well, you just eat the evidence.
There you go.
That's our time on News for Texas at 6. Thanks very much for joining us.
Phyllis and Steve will be here at 9. We'll be back at 10. Until then, have a great evening. And BW, nuts to you.
Welcome back. You know, art is one of those subjective things in which beauty is truly in the eyes of the beholder. Art can be a painting of a breathtaking landscape or a sculpture that's a bizarre configuration of just scrap metal. But if you see it as a work of art, then it's art.
As our GMT correspondent Todd Harrison found out, one of the most celebrated artists of his time lives right here in North Texas. And Todd joins us now with all the details. Good morning, Todd.
Good morning to the both of you. I think this is kind of an art form. Empty plates and food right in the middle. Is that like a statement about
with
something?
the color. Notice the color and stuff.
Yeah.
It's art if you see it as art, right?
That's what I said. There was a Rembrandt, a Michelangelo, Da Vinci, just to name a few, but the work of one will always stand out, Picasso. His art can be seen in the most prestigious museums in the world, and right here in North Texas. Picasso was one of the most celebrated artists of his time. There is his child with the dove, and his blind man's meal. He was a master at bringing life to the absurd. Picasso's affection for the unusual sets his work apart from all the rest, and for all time. There was only one Picasso, or is there? B.W. Crawford is known as the Pecan Picasso. His artistic flair is crafted not with brushes, paint, and canvas, but with nuts.
Certain ones of them look like certain people's heads, the shapes of them, though. Famous people that I used to seeing, you know.
B.W.'s collection extends to more than 400 figures. His one-of-a-kind pecan gallery is home to some of your favorite personalities. Television stars to movie stars, presidents to dictators. He's even created the likenesses of a few of the most notorious televangelists.
Robert Tilton, evangelist, and Jim and Tammy Baker, and Jimmy Swaggart.
While most artists prefer a studio to detail their impressions, this Picasso prefers the nut house. Not to crack the nuts, but to perfect them.
I'll show you some of the tricks of the trade. You know, like a nut like this, you would put it on a round nut, a head, and cut it off about halfway. And I'm making a Mickey Mouse nose.
Once the nuts are selected, all he needs is a little hot glue and the willpower not to snack on his artistic productions.
How long does it take you to make one?
Now, to make a celebrity, it takes about approximately 3 days for me because it takes me that long just to do the face, because sometimes I have to keep painting over it to get the likeness that I'm looking for.
I wonder how many times he had to paint her face.
You got to be a little nutty to identify with this. Just a little bit nutty.
What started as just a hobby has ended up as an artist's passion for reality. Just as the Energizer Bunny does, BW keeps going and going and going.
I just take just any old nut and make a star out of them.
But there's an important lesson for nuts looking toward the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. While some nuts make it to the big time, others, well, aren't so lucky.
Oh, a
shattered dream.
That could have been someone. That could have been a big celebrity right there.
You know what they always say about persistence? You know, you have to be persistent in Hollywood, so that nut, if it can...
Put itself back together again, maybe in a mincemeat pie or something like that. But that's really neat. I would never have thought about that.
Pecan Picasso.
We have all the information on our viewer hotline if
people are interested.
People are interested. But they're not for sale. They're just part of the museum.
And you can't eat them either.
Okay. But you can step on them.
Up next, are you yearning for the peace of mind you...
No, we were in hot pursuit of more amazing art, sitting halfway between Denton and Dallas. Now, if you know your nuts, you might recognize Louisville as being the site of the world's only pecan museum.
I do them just the way I see them. Now, if I see something going on out there, just everyday life, I'll come home and put it on pecans. I'll kind of photograph it in my memory and put it on pecans.
At first, all these were just something BW used to advertise his nut-cracking business. That operation is gone now, but this former auto worker has justly become known as the Pecan Picasso.
I didn't expect it to go as far out as it did, because it's been on CNN and it's gone in 125 countries and that kind of stuff.
It's taken up all the room in the living room. So I said, we've got to do something. So we moved it down here and bought these cases and everything.
Now this type of pecan here, I can do a lot of things with it. I can cut it off in half there and make a Mickey Mouse nose out of it. By cutting it off, putting it on a round pecan, I can make a Santa Claus hat out of it. And I can make an old man's back out of it too, see?
Well, so do you know which pecans now make the best body parts?
Yeah, just like Roseanne, see, she's kind of heavy on the, on the heavy side, so I'd use the fuller pecans for her, you see. I'll try to put humor. See, like this one right here, the stripper, she's auctioning off her bra. And these guys are bidding on it. And this guy around here, he's having so much fun, his wife popped him upside that head, you see. When Dan Quill couldn't spell potato, that's the way I saw him. So that's why I do them that way. See, this is Betty Boot. Now, some of these pecans grow together. And so when you turn her around, she's mooning.
So now who do we got in that case?
Well, I put the rottenest ones first, Ronald Reagan. And there's his wife, Nancy. And George Bush. I call it Nutty Nuptials. She's in the family way, and he's taking off running, and their father back there is going to make him do the right thing with that shotgun.
This is all pecans?
Every once in a while I have to put a little wire to make a little curve or something. Most of it is just pecans, and like I say, the hair. I started making the hair out of the hot glue that I glue them together with.
One that actually made is that.
There are no road signs to guide you here, but if you call ahead, the Crawfords will be glad to show you around. Just don't expect to see his best-known piece, the all-pecan version of The Last Supper. PW donated it to Ripley's for one of their museums.
I donated it to them because I felt like it, a lot of people would see it, That's why I don't have a charge down here. I put donations accepted because somebody might not have any money. You see what I'm saying? And so I want everybody to see it. If they don't have any money, that's fine.
That's our kind of attraction, and they're our kind of hosts. But I'm afraid the road beckons, and we've got to get cracking. After all, I'm Don the Camera Guy, signing off.
Pretty much for the past, all through the summer, we've stayed out usually a month at a time.
Right.
We're off for about a week or two.
You just go home for a week?
So, yeah.
Where is home?
In Dallas, Texas.
In Dallas, Texas. And that's close to the Pecan Museum.
Yes, I know. You're like 45 minutes from me.
45 minutes?
I have to go visit.
Every time you get home.
I have to go.
That's right. And is that where you're from originally?
No, I'm originally from Dallas.
Guest star, Grammy winner Leanne Rhymes. And still to come, Young and the Restless star Joshua Morrow and Pecan Museum curator B.W. Crawford. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Howie.
We're back, and all the way from, 45 minutes from Leanne Rhymes' house, right? Is that where you have this museum? We have the creator and curator of the world's only pecan museum, known by his neighbors in Denton. That's how they know you as, the neighbors know you as the Pecan Picasso. Please welcome B.W. Crawford. Thank you. Welcome, sir. Thank you very much for being here. Now you actually take pecans, right? And tell us what you do with them.
Well, see, I went into the pecan cracking business.
You're in the pecan cracking business?
Yeah.
Because people can't crack their own pecans?
Well, not if they have a lot of them.
Not if you have like 6 or 7 of them, then you want somebody. VW, crack these.
A lot of people have several hundred pounds.
Oh.
So you run them through the machine.
Right, so you used to run pecans through the machine.
Yeah, and watching them go through the machine, certain ones of them look like certain people, shaped like certain people's heads, famous people, you know.
So you were looking at these nuts going by going, hey, look, who's that?
Yeah.
Right.
And I could see the faces in them, see a picture of the faces in them.
You could picture the stars?
So I started painting their faces on them.
You painted the faces. So we should show you some of the ones that he's done. This here is one of the very first ones that you did. Tell them who this one is. VW, this is?
John Wayne.
John Wayne. Made entirely out of pecans.
Yeah.
Now, do you actually paint these yourself?
Yes,
Is there certain people that you enjoy painting?
Well, yeah, women more so than men because they have a lot prettier faces than the men.
So the women you do? What are some of the women? Maybe we can look at some. Well, let me show you this. This guy's right across the hall. This is, why don't you tell them who this is? Who's
Yeah,
that?
that's Jay Leno.
Jay Leno.
And,
This is Jay Leno, and he's sitting at his desk with
the devil and his wife and the little devil.
Just like he does on his show.
Yeah, and they're probably, the conversation is probably they're wondering who's stoking the fire now.
Right.
The winds are gone.
Right, and this is, right here we have...
Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton.
Now, Dolly, I had to use a little... I had to find a little bigger pecan for Dolly because she's known to be a top heavy.
Right, so you use really big pecans.
Yeah.
And who doesn't love Dolly's pecan?
That's right.
All right, and over here we have... Now, this is... You actually have a museum, okay? And how many people would come through your museum?
Oh, on a busy weekend, maybe 2. Well, that's a busy weekend.
Do they stand in line and wait for you to punch a ticket? Or?
No, they don't have to.
That's a busy weekend? Was this past weekend really busy for you?
No.
No. How many came through last weekend?
0.
0. Well, maybe after they see this show, because who wouldn't run to see this?
Well, see, a lot of people don't know I'm out there, right where I am, you know.
Where are you?
In Shady Shores.
Shady Shores?
Texas.
Shady Shores. People don't know where you
right
are.
outside of Denton.
And where is the museum?
It's in on the property in the back of my house.
In the backyard?
Yeah, backyard.
In the garage?
Yeah.
In the garage.
I have a double garage.
I got a feeling a lot of people watching have their own little museum. Maybe they're not people. And this one's kind of neat. This one's kind of neat here. Tell them who this is.
That's Howie Mandel.
Sometimes I feel like a nut, and sometimes I don't.
Right.
This is amazing. And who are you working on one right now? Oh, this is one. What is this? Look at this.
Well, that could be Leanne, because she'll be probably my next subject.
Look at you, Leanne. Yeah, I don't think she's done yet. What is this?
No. See, I left one undone. I left one undone so you can see how they were.
These are how they're made.
Yeah.
This is not even done yet.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
wow. Well, this is going to be you, Leanne. Wait till we won't show this until she's fully dressed. How long does it take you to make one?
Well, to make a celebrity, about 3 days.
It takes 3 days to make a celebrity?
About a 16-hour day.
How about just a neighbor?
Well, no, they don't take long because they don't have a specific face on them, you know, that people recognize.
It doesn't take time to make a neighbor, but
No.
3 days to make a celebrity.
Yeah.
You have neighbors that don't have specific faces?
I'm used to seeing celebrities on TV
or in a nut cracking machine.
Right.
Here you have the Pope and you have Marilyn Monroe. Just explain who this is right here. Who's this?
That's Dan Quayle. When he couldn't spell potato, that's the way I saw him.
Oh, he's wearing the dunce cap? Yes. I see what you're doing. VW, you are certainly a pleasure, and I'll tell you something. With this kind of publicity that we're giving you here, next weekend, 3 people. I hope so. We're going to be back with Joshua Morrow from Young and the Restless right after this.